thing I've been doing. We also have to warn people coming in, so if they don't want to appear on camera, they can mute. They can turn off their video. It looks like it's going now.
It's going. Okay. Apparently I have permission.
Yep. So I said, if you do not want to be on camera or on the video, you need to turn off your video.
Right. The only reason I wanted to do this is because I had so many people I had people from Sweden and Australia complaining about the time period for the class. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of control over that.
No, but that's great.
Trying to record it.
The level of interest is way cool. I'm very
absolutely.
And I imagine I'll probably have very little me up. It's probably mostly going to be stuff I'm sharing. So. Let's see. Let's start with.
Drax, you're gonna get hit in the face with a bow, baby. Get out of the way.
Where do I want to go?
No, I'm hitting you in the face with a bow.
Oops.
Don't make me pick you up and put you on camera again, boy. All right.
Give them one more minute.
For the benefit
Can everybody hear me okay?
of people who've just come in, so if you do not want to, do not want to be in the video, you might want to turn your camera off.
I am recording this, so.
I do.
Okay.
Howdy.
You have handouts and stuff you're going to put the link to?
I will post them. I was going to try and post them before the class, and I ended up spending so much time looking for something that I could not find that I haven't had time to post them. I will post them after, and I will attach, I will send links out, or I don't know, how would I send the links out? It's going to be on Google Pages, but I tried to actually send out handouts for the class to get posted, and they apparently didn't get to the right person, or they're in the right time or something.
My Google file in like the Bardic page and be like, here are all the materials that I might have shared, because
That sounds
at this point
I know there were some of yours that I would wanted to go to, but didn't get off work in time, so that would be fantastic.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of them, like for example, my 16th century music class, there's not a lot of
new stuff
I can share there, because a lot of that's copy ones where I'm like, I just have to re-offer it. But yeah, and then musician health stuff is, I can't share too much of that too. I'm taking away from the class. Pardon me.
Tiggernock. Is it said Tiggernock?
It's just Tiggernock. It's just Tier and Bard. It's just Tier. Tier is fine.
Okay, Tier. If you can't share before we close this class, maybe you could share your email so that we could contact you afterwards.
Yes, that would be great. Where am I now? Now I'm lost. Okay, so for anyone wanting my email, now here, maybe I can put this in a chat.
Yes, you can.
That would be great to everyone. So for anyone that doesn't know, so my name is Tier, Tien Bard. I've been in society 40 years now. My mundane name is Cross Reardon. My wife is Star Reardon, and we share everything. So our email, shared email, is star.cross.reardon@gmail.com, because we also want to be each other's email all the time in case someone misses something. Oops. One of those is a comma that's supposed to be a period. All right, let's see if that worked any better. Yes. Well, that's my email for anyone that wants to get things from me that aren't included in this, that we don't see today. So we have a few. I'm going to introduce myself. Again, as I said, I'm Tiernak Bard. We're just Tiern Bard, we're Tier. I've been in society 40 years, joined when I was only 13. And I've learned most of my music stuff within the society. I've had very little real training. My mom, when I was 14, paid one of the minstrels at a Ren fair to give me lessons on guitar during his breaks, his lunch breaks. So that was my beginning of training, was from the minstrel at a fair. I have always wanted to be, my period is 6th century Welsh, although we're not really Welsh yet, but so 6th century Welsh. And I've always loved the music and the stories and everything else from that time period and wanted to write music. And I had started writing a few songs, but I really wanted to try and make something more real. Most of my songs, of course, did like most people do that write songs. You turn up some lyrics first, and then you kind of come up with the melody that goes with it. But I was really wanting to do something more period. And when I was quite young, I've been in society probably like 4 years or so, maybe 3 or 4 years, and something came out in Tournaments Illuminated, and that's one of the things I couldn't find was the actual article that talked about how Celtic knotwork was a way of transcribing music. And I was just enamored by this, and I just loved the idea. Oh, this is great. And so let me do this real quick. Yeah, just show the whole screen. Yeah, sure. And so let's not go to this one yet. Let's go to this one. So I really love that idea. And what I first did, see, I think it's somewhere down. Yeah, here we go. I started playing around, just looking at knots and seeing just some random knot and see what it would look like when turned into music using their system. And the system is just that you draw lines through and make notes about it. Where it comes from, and this is kind of the neat part. Now I tried to make this music for a long time, but I had no documentation for it. Like I know I read this somewhere, but I could not find it. And there are some online old Tournaments Illuminated. This particular article was not. I could not find it. But I did find from that name, I think the name was something like Old Celtic Design Music. And from an internet search on that, I found an article called Celtic Design Music. And from the bibliography of that article, I found this. And this is the major thing everyone's going to want to get. Mark Schiegeltech wrote this. This is a newer copy of this, but it's an old article. And it has had many different names over the article. But it all talks about this guy, John Cargill, who back in the 1930s was an archaeologist. And he really liked working with Celtic stuff. And he specifically started looking at Celtic crosses, all these old stone crosses that are all over the British Isles. And while he was doing that, he noticed that the dimensions of the crosses, and this is all the crosses, not just one cross, but all of the crosses there, the dimensions fit the diatonic scale. And this was astounding to him. Why would all of these crosses have dimensions that fit the diatonic scale? It just seemed really weird. Then he noticed one particular cross. Let's see here. Called the Old Stone at Cana. And this is where the top of it is. On the bottom of it has these two leopards with knotwork coming out of their mouths. Well, that's interesting. And then he found an Anglo-Saxon poem from the same time period as this cross that talked about two leopards singing. Well, here's leopards with knotwork coming out of the mouth at the same time period as there's a poem about leopards singing. Could this knotwork somehow represent music? And so what he did is so here's a representation of what the knotwork looks like. He just took the knotwork and drew lines, parallel lines through the intersections. Now, again, there's no key, there's no sharps, there's no flats, there's no times. But if you just throw lines across the intersections, you come up with a scale. he came up with this melody. And he went and asked a professor of his that was a professor of music. And the guy's like, oh yeah, that's a well-known song. You sing it every Christmas. It's like, oh, so this really was a real song that had been transcribed 1,000 years ago. And so he started finding other cases of where there was knotwork, and he found that they all turned into music. From this book, there's this guy and this knot, and it also turns into music. And these are all tunes that have grown up with us over the centuries that we didn't realize were actually originally put down in these knots. So this notes is the first thing I will send out to people. That's really the whole of it. That's really all the documentation I have. So what I did is I tried then just to take this one. Just to remember, I could not find this article at first. I was just trying to see if I could do this. And I just remembered something about the knots where they intersect becoming notes. And so you can take any random Celtic knot and do this, and it turns into a melody. And in fact, it turns into a particular kind of melody. You can see these kind of waves going up and down. And it turns out that there's a lot of Celtic music has that same kind of form. That's a melody that I wrote, trying to keep that same kind of form. But here, where's Slain? Somewhere I thought I had Slain up here. Now let me grab Slain up here real quick. No, music, where's Slain? So if anyone doesn't know, the song Be Now My Vision, you hear a lot sometimes at church. Be Now My Vision is supposedly based on a text written by St. Patrick back in the 5th century. And the tune it's put to is called Slain, which is named after the hill where he supposedly stood when he wrote this song. And it has, again, that same kind of up and down wandering thing. So I found this true for several of these old Celtic songs. They had this kind of up and down wandering thing. So the first thing I did was try to make something that looked like that. And so the song I wrote, come on, get back up here, looked like this. So you have to start out in this form. Now, you can forget all of your, whether it's a half note or quarter note, or this still has everything on it, but you're really eventually going to want it into very simplest form. Let's see, I thought I had that up here. Oh yeah, here, back here, there. So if you see this melody in its simplest form, that's the melody that I decided to try and make notes out of, make a knotwork out of. And all you have to do is take the notes and try and make a knotwork out of them. It's tedious and boring and agonizingly unfun, but it's not really hard. Let me see. Some of my first should be in here. Some examples. So here we go. Where is, I thought I had it in here. What does this one look like? Yeah, okay, so that's what I took for the score. So this is one knot, this is the same knot, and then these last two parts I incorporated into a single knot. And you can see where I tried to start up here. I tried to look, knot, and then it didn't work too well. The easiest thing to do is you actually put your knots out, and each one has to be a cross, right? Because each one has to be an intersection. So it's not a dot, it's actually an intersection. And where is, well, here, I guess we can go to the newest one I'm trying to make. You get kind of an idea of how you start on this. So I made my note, my thing. I'll actually show you, go ahead, and what I came up with eventually, before I get to the final, I guess. Let's go ahead and show you what I came up with. What I eventually came up with was, this was my first knot. This is from that melody that you just saw. Literally, this is dun, dun, dun. So, sorry. And you have to have some sort of direction. So I made mine an arrow going through a bow. There's a couple rules you have to learn. If you ever have two notes directly after each other, dun, dun, it has to be a loop. That's the only way to do that in Knotwork. It has to be a loop. If you have an uneven number of the same notes in a line, then you have to have something else crossing it. You can't, because if you don't have an even number of notes, there's no way to have them always crossing themselves. They have to cross something else. So I threw my little bow in there. And you'll see later some other things I've had to come up with to fit another intersection in where I really just have a line. Now I have made this much prettier since then. This looks a lot better nowadays, but it's only written, I never got it digitized. It's only written on paper somewhere, and that's what I've spent hours looking for and couldn't find. So the way this works is you just follow through, bump, 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 and here, bump, bump, bump. Back over here, bum, bum, bum. Back over here, bum, 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 bum. And so anyway, the whole song sounds like this. Sounds like this. It's kind of tough to follow. Bum, 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 bum.
So you follow the string. You don't necessarily go read from left to right. You follow.
No. You have to follow the knot. You have to follow the knot. So the knot has to have a directionality to it. That's why I made it into an arrow and a bow to give it a directionality. Elsewise, you can play it backwards theoretically, but you have to follow the knot to make the melody. And that's what makes it really difficult, is because you tend to want to take your melody that's kind of in this kind of like long drawn out thing. Where's my drawn out like this, and you try to put out notes like this, and you end up with the long line of snake, but now you have to go back over it somehow to give you your connections. So I'll get more into that. So
can you show, when you get a chance, can you go back to that other one and show
knot
again how you followed it?
Yes. Okay, so here you're starting here with the fletches of the arrow. So the first note is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It goes back over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
So hold on a second. So that's what's in that knot. And that's only the first part of the song. Now, this is ugly, and I will tell you that I have since redone this much better. So there is no single knot to fit a song. You could theoretically do an infinite number of different knots and come up with the same song. Has anyone here ever heard of the game Sprouts? I'll take that.
No, but I'm going to look it up.
I first found out about it because of a Robert Heinlein book, where these mathematicians in the far future were playing this game Sprouts. And it's a super simple game that mathematicians play. And it's a simple thing where you just draw a couple dots and you have to connect the dots in a particular way. And each person goes until there's no more turns, and whoever made the last turn wins. What makes it interesting is that for any particular number of dots, there's already a known winner. Like I think 3 dots, the first person that goes wins. With 4 dots, the second person that goes wins. And it's a known thing. So it's not hard for 3 or 4 dots, but when you start getting to 5, 6, 7 dots, it gets much harder for a mathematician to figure out, should I start or should I be the second? Because here's the trick when you're playing Sprouts. One person chooses the number of dots. The other person chooses whether to start or go second. So it's this mathematical game. But there are ways to cheat. There are ways to lock off a dot so that you can't get to it with a line, and thus you have changed the outcome. And so for these really super bright mathematicians with a whole bunch of dots, it becomes an incredibly complex game of right now the first person wins. Oh, he knocks off. Now it's gonna be the second person. So they're figuring out, which one's gonna be winning all the way through, changing up the end of the game constantly. It's a really fun game. And if you ever practice it, it helps a lot to do this. So let me go back to, all right, so this is the whole song. Let me get back to the simple one. Here we go. So that's what I just played is right there. Bum 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 bum. That's what that first knot is. Then I went to the second part. And this is what I came up with more practice now. This is now what I came up with for the second knot. A lot more notes in there, and yet it's a much cleaner, purer picture. And I've actually cleaned it up since then. So this one goes bum, 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 bum. Notice, bum, bum. There has to be a loop if there's two notes in a row. Bum, 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 bum. And it goes here. Bum, 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 bum. This is my lowest note here. Bum, 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 bum. So bum, 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 bum. So what that second house sounds like is, sorry.
Oh, he froze.
That's what's all inside that one knot.
Can you play that again? The audio, the whole picture, your internet is freezing a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
So
wondering if we all turned off our audio and video, if it might help his signal in some way.
Yeah, because I've got pretty fast internet here, so I'll play it through slowly.
Yeah, that worked. How do you know which line
You have to follow.
to
Like
follow?
here-
So you start at the tail, go to
Start
the
at the
first
tail.
knot, and then at
Yeah.
the second knot, how do you know which trail to take?
You always go straight across. You never turn. You always just go straight across the knot.
Well, right. So, okay. So when you start at the tail, you go straight and then you go straight up and then you spin
Yeah.
around, you come down and then you go straight
Straight
across
here.
and then
Yeah,
go
and there's
up,
the
spin
bump,
down.
Bump, bump, and then go back around here to bump, bump,
And you
bump.
keep going straight.
Yeah.
Oh, I get
Yeah.
it. Cool.
Bum, 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 bum.
There was a
bum,
question,
bum.
didn't the string between the loops and knots help determine the duration of the note?
I don't think so. Because remember, most of these were carved into rocks. So and it's incredibly complex just to make this. So trying to come up with some sort of interval wouldn't really work at all. And if you think about it, if you've ever seen very early period musical texts when they actually use a score, there is no timing at all. There is no, it's just a note.
I took a medieval polyphony class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took, sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I've done medieval text and that's what it looks like right there. If you look at this actually, these three little notes made with a pen, that would be actually your clef signature. This tells you what key it is. And then each of these is a note. There is no length, there is no time. That's the way the original oldest music texts were written. Oh, what's that?
So how do you read that? How do you read what key it's in? Is that like F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, or
Make
G
it whatever
sharp?
key you want. If you think about it, we're talking about music that was recorded thousands of years ago. They didn't have a key. They didn't know what the chromatic scale was. They obviously did use a diatonic scale because that's what James Cargill found in the crosses. So it wasn't so much that there was a particular scale. They just knew that the dun, 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 dun. They came up with the so they came up with that 7-note scale, and they would just write a song to it. And there is no particular scale. And when I first joined the society, remember, I learned all of my music within the society. I had no formal training. And I went around with the guitar and I played all these songs. And I come up to a fire and I tried to sing some songs. And some guys, other guitarists, hey, what key are you in? Like, key of me. I had no idea what keys were. You know, I would tune the guitar so that I could sing the songs and hit my voice, right? And like, you can't do that. That's how I do it. You know, the whole idea to me, to be honest, I later became an engineer, a mathematician, and worked in these really, really technical industries. I was an engineer at On Semiconductor for years. And the whole idea that music could have one note has to be an exact frequency, to me, is silly. Music, as far as I'm concerned, is based on the intervals. Is that the interval between the notes is really what makes the song. It doesn't really matter whether it's do, re, mi, or do, re, mi. Either way, it's the interval that makes the song. So as long as you know the intervals between the notes, you don't really need to know anything else. You can move it up and down wherever you want on the scale. So to give you an example, so I started doing this, the only song of mine that I've completely put into Knotwork. And I've shown you the knots, although I have a prettier, I went and redid that first knot, that really ugly one that looks like this. I did go back and redo it. Unfortunately, I did it on paper. I made a really pretty one that actually looks a lot more like this, with a little less complex because it has fewer notes, but it looks a lot like that. And
What is that little circle for in the bottom of that one
so
there?
I have to have something that crosses here and here to give me these two notes. And so I just made it into a circle with this picture on like a Celtic shield. Just like having here where this one comes in, it just makes this little curl in here, or this little curl in here. See, this little curl does nothing. This line could be a different color. Now, of course, we're carved in stone, we don't have colors. But this line could be a different color because it doesn't actually part of it. It simply gives you a couple intersections. This circle doesn't actually take part in the song other than these two intersections. Same thing with this bow up here on the corner. This is the bow firing the arrow. It just gives you that one intersection.
Okay, but what about the little circle inside? There's no intersection there. Is that
Nope.
just for decor?
That's just for decor, to make it look like a Celtic shield. Now, if you've ever seen the old oval Celtic shields with that boss in the middle, it's a Celtic shield that happens to have a line going across it. And if I was painting this, you know, I could probably paint that up really pretty or something. But
Brilliant.
so I originally did all of this on pencil and paper. Like I said, I redid my first one on pencil and paper, but you're eventually going to want it done in digital form. You just are. And so I suggest you start that way. And as you can see, these were done with Microsoft Paint, and I do not suggest you use that at all. The better way I have found now is to use something like PowerPoint. Can you see this screen? Everybody see this screen? Okay, so what we have is a PowerPoint, and all I've done is make a bunch of lines, parallel lines, just draw a blue line, put a red one in the middle just so I have some idea of what my scale is going to be. And I start out with my two first notes of the song. In this case, I decided to go back and kind of reprove my theories here, to go back and redo a song that's well known. In specific, this one is, where are you? Nope, not that one. It's the song Slain. I think I mentioned it before. Oh, I can't find it right now. But it's that tune to Be Thou My Vision. Dun, 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 dun. This is tune Slain, and it's very, very old. They don't know how old it is. And so it dates back to like, I think they date back to at least the 9th century, but they don't know where it actually came from. So that could theoretically, because it is tied with St. Patrick, date all the way back to my time period. So that song starts with bum, bum, bum. So I just started here, bum, bum, bum. Now I know because it starts with a bum, bum, I know I have to have a loop. So I just start with a loop the next note. So then we try.
Wait, why do you have, wait, you sang 2 notes and then you sang 3 notes. I'm
Yeah,
confused.
because this is 2 notes here, because you're following the line goes through here twice.
So bum, bum, bum.
Yep. Bum,
Okay.
bum, 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 bum. And we go, oops, here's Slain 2. So I'm just showing you the process of how I kind of started. So that's my first couple notes of Slain. Oh, let me go to the, oh, yeah, that's it. I'll go back. So now here, bum, 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 bum. Now, I only have the notes here. I don't know yet what I'm going to do with them. I'm just kind of playing around with the idea. Now, the reason I'm doing this in Microsoft PowerPoint is that I can actually pick on one of these things and move it somewhere. So I can move that dot somewhere wherever I want it to be. And these are just curved lines you make it in. You see up here, all of these shapes up here. You can make curved lines, you can make circles, you can make arcs. And you just make an arc, and then you can move it wherever you need to. And this way you can save it over time and see what it looks like over time. So now we have 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but of course I don't actually have my intersections for the next 3. So now we go to, oh, that's still the same one. And here we go. So here's an idea. So now I go 1, 2, here I don't know where I'm going here yet, but at least I have some of them. So it's bum, 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 bum. So it's bum, 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 bum. Trying to be thou my vision. Be now my vision, the Lord of my. So it's bum, 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 bum. So this is bum,
Dun, 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 dun.
bum, 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 bum. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. I gotta get back to here somehow next. So then my next one was gonna be this. I haven't finished this one. This is just one I started working on just as an example to play with. I guess that's, there we go. I thought, well, I'm kind of stuck here. I could just put in, again, now here I have it in different color. So now I have all these notes, and this black one doesn't have anything to do with the actual music. It just gives me 2 intersections that I didn't have before. So now it's bum, 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 and then gone. Where it goes next? That's the beginning of the song Slain. S-L-A-N-E. It's an old Irish, traditional Irish hymn that they don't really know who wrote it, but there are legends that it was actually written by St. Patrick, which puts it back in 5th century. So that's basically all of it. It's not difficult concept. It's just tedious to do.
That's cool.
And like I
So
said,
this is a lot like coordinate geometry in some ways. So like I take coordinate graphs with kids that I've taught, and we graph dots and figure out what their coordinates are, and then we play the notes per pitch and note.
Right. And so eventually, if you practice at it, you can get to something that looks more like that. You know, which it's a lot prettier. I've actually got prettier
Very
versions
cool.
than this.
Have you
too.
tried making this with string? Have you
what?
tried making these with actual string too?
No. Good idea. Well, the thing is, though, you'd have to like glue it down because it wouldn't hang in the right shape. You couldn't, because they're not sharp across the points. You can't, like you would do like when you make your string art where you straight lines in between each point, that would be fine. But these aren't straight in between each point. I guess you put extra ones out and make them sharp. You know, make it just as sharp points, so they're angular rather than circular. So this has been my drive since I started the SCA, is being able to do this. This is my first song that I've gotten back into Knotwork. And like I said, the first knot I also have much prettier than what I showed before. I've got a prettier version of it, so it looks a lot more like this. And I'm right now doing a Slain just to show another theoretically period song and how that might look in Knotwork. Any questions?
Brilliant.
It's really not. It's just stuff that I read. I think I'm the only person that was willing enough to take the time to sit down and do it. Is the trick to it.
You've hit upon gold.
I even have, I've made some ideas of taking this and putting it back into a cross. I've made up a Welsh cross with two of the arms being the verses, this part, and the third one at the top being the chorus, this part, and I just put a little Trinity knot in the fourth one all by itself. And it actually makes a pretty little cute Celtic cross that you could carve into stone.
Ha! That is so cool.
Oh, it looks like, oh, that's something else. Anything else? Now, like I said, the best way, if you're gonna try this, I suggest go to PowerPoint, make yourself this little sheet of straight lines. You might want to put one line in the center, just red, just so you have idea of scale. And then just start putting in dots. You can use anywhere. Just what I do is I make myself dots and I just save them off to the side and go, and every time I want a new dot, I just go pull it off and I copy it and put it in a new place. And you go to the next, put the next dots in and start filling in the spaces in between with arcs. Now these arcs I can take out and move at any time and put somewhere else.
So here's something cool. I just tried.
Okay.
My signature.
Oh, cool. Let me blow that up. Oh, you want to see what song that makes? That'd be very cool. The neat thing is,
You play it?
Let's see if I can get it large enough. Let me see. Where am I? How can I get this bigger? Oh, here we go. Here.
Can you do a screenshot?
I'm trying to make you big enough for me to really see it. Right now, it's just one of these little tiny icons in the corner. And we stretch your window out. There we go. So that would be.
I don't think I wrote the notes correctly, but.
Bum 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 dun 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 bum dun. Yeah.
So would this one would this one here, so it would go.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Guessing.
So actually, so you're putting notes back here. These bottom ones aren't even notes because there's nothing crossing them, right?
Right. So this would be two. Whoops. This would be two notes.
That'd
And
be
that
two
would
notes.
be, that would be 2 notes, and that
Yeah,
would be
that's
2
two
notes.
And this
So,
is nothing.
ba, 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 ba,
So
no,
yeah, there's a
ba,
note
ba,
here because
ba,
of this.
ba, ba, ba.
So this is ba, 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 ba.
Ha.
That's it. Ba, 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 ba. That's it.
That is so cool. It's so fun. Thank
You can
you.
You're very welcome. Like I said, you can take any bit of knotwork and make it into music, and it will make some sort of melody. That's what I showed you right here, I think. Yeah, you can see this one. Yeah, this isn't any known song, but you could certainly play this, and it'd be very pretty.
So
And it
how
gives
can you tell on this one where it starts? And the red or the blue or?
I made myself a starting point. I don't know if you can see it. I put a little tiny black arrow up in that top left corner pointing in a particular direction. And I said,
Okay.
starting here. And then this would just repeat itself. So this is what it would look like once through, and it would just repeat after that. Nope. I'm not plugged in for some reason. My battery is dying.
Don't go.
I don't know why. Let's try this real quick. Hold on. There. That help? Am I plugged in now? You're not showing me plugged in. Why are you not showing me plugged in? Nope. Oh. How about that? Yay, I'm plugged in.
Oh, now I'm curious what a treble clef would sound like.
Yeah,
That's
so
almost like a Celtic knot.
almost, yes.
Huh.
So this is the song that you can see this here. This is the song that was actually written into the stone at Cana. And it's a recognizably Celtic melody that's used for Easter. And again, but you have to put in the timing yourself. But if you think about it, this was developed by the early Celts who didn't even have a written language. There was no written language. So the only way to spread stuff was by song or story and memorization. And that's why the bards spent 14 years as novices memorizing all of the stories and songs and everything else. And you can memorize words, but how do you describe a tune and pass it down to others? And they didn't even have a language. So they developed their knotwork as a way of handing down their music to the next generation. They didn't have paper and pens. They didn't write on anything. The earliest language developed by the Celts was the Ogham, developed by the Druids, and that wasn't developed until after they met the Romans and discovered that the Romans writing. And they developed Ogham afterwards, saying, oh, we could write this stuff down. But other than that, they did everything in the knotwork.
Wow, I'm never going to look at it not work like that again the same way. I'm going to be singing when I go to a museum. Going,
Right.
dun, 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 dun.
So, like I said, this has been my muse the whole time. So I wrote this song. Let me go back to where I was. Let's see. So this is the whole song. And you've heard part of it. The whole song sounds like this.
Pardon
Now-
me, I don't want to interrupt, but every time you play, because of how loud the instrument is, the mic drops out.
Oh, geez.
So you might, if you have the options,
Play a
sometimes at the
different
top of
softer
the
instrument.
sound next to recording.
Well, let me tell you what I did with this. So this, I originally wrote this back 30 years ago or so. And so I originally came up with the melody. Then I wrote words to go with it. And when I was coming up with words to go with it, again, 6th century Welsh bard, what the heck would I sing about? And one of the things that's we're really interested in, my wife and I studying our time period, is the beginnings of Christianity and the beginnings of Christianizing the Celts. And the bards were the ones who've been keeping alive all of their traditions, including their religion, for thousands of years. So if you imagine a bard hearing about this new Christ and some of the things they might say about this Christ, and this whole idea of God being love, how would a bard think about God being love? And so the song goes like this. Like the sheep in their hills, or the grass in its fields, like the moon in its paths, love will last. Though past kings in their halls, or the dames with their thralls, though past men with their hoes, love still grows. For the moon and the sun may hide their heads and shun, as long as lives man, love lives on. As long as lives man, love lives on. Those are the words I came up with for the song. The song's called Love Lives On, but it's not really about love per se.
And that's true. And the Israelis, as far as I took a class a while back on Israel, and I was taught that their before they could write, stories are a huge deal in Israeli culture, because it passes on all that knowledge and wisdom, but they were memorable type stories, not just factual stuff that went on.
That's why it's kind of today we use the term bard very loosely. Among the original Celts, bards were very, very high up. Only the king were above the bards, because the bards had all of your knowledge. The bards had memorized what all the laws were. They were your lawyers. They were your actually your judges. Whenever a bard happened to come through town, he would teach people their stories. He would settle any differences. If two people were fighting over land, the bard would be the one knowing the laws that says, you win, you lose, this is what you pay this person. They were the ones who knew all that. They memorized the Brehon laws, and they had a lot of laws. One of the things that Julius Caesar said about the Britons when he conquered them is he mentioned that they had this complex set of laws that was very comparable to what they had in Roman times for Rome. Very complex set of laws. And for example, I know that they had 7 different levels of marriage. Big surprise there. So among the Celts, there was really no such thing as a bastard. There was no such thing. So the lowest level of marriage was rape. A child of rape was have the lowest level of marriage, but they were married at that moment when they had that child, just the lowest level. And then they had successively higher and higher levels that would decide whether who would pay what. You know, are you going to pay for the bride, or is she going to pay for a dowry? Is the bride's family going to pay for it? Is the groom's family going to pay for it? All these different levels up of 7 different levels of marriage. And this is the kind of stuff that the bards had to memorize.
Wow.
Some of the other stuff they have is like how much it cost. I know that they had in there, something I haven't been able to find, for instance, how much would it cost you if you killed your neighbor's slave? It would cost you so much money. How much would it cost you if you killed your neighbor's bard? And that would cost you more. How would it cost you? How much would it cost you if you killed their Tiern bard, which is actually a title meaning Lord Bard? and it cost you 10 times more than that. So Tiernbard became my name based on that system. I'm not allowed to actually use Tiernbard as a name because it was a title for a particular level that has to be, you have to have achieved that. And I can't in the society say, I'm a Tiernbard because I haven't achieved that. Although interestingly, if you go back to some of the oldest documents available from Ireland, there was a king named Tiernbard. And so I thought maybe I could get away with it because of him, but they say no, because there's only one of him ever. So you can't have Tiernbard. So, but you're allowed to have Tierna Bard. Okay, so I'm Tierna Bard. It's still Tiernbard.
So that's cool because Tiernach Bard, in German, the word nach means after.
Ah.
So
well,
you are after the tier.
Right. It's big for me because my own mundane last name is Reardon. And if you research it, Reardon comes from an ancient Irish name. We can trace them all the way back to Corkin County, Tipperary, back in medieval times. And the name means royal bard. That's what my mundane last name means. So I'm actually descended from royal bards somewhere long back in history. And in support of that, two of my best songs that I have written, and they were both inspired by the events talked about in the Godothan, which is the oldest existing Welsh poem that talks about a battle that happened at the end of the 6th century. And it was 363 heroes, about 36,000 Celtic troops, fought 100,000 Saxons. It lasted a week. And of the Celts, 1 in 100 made it home. 99% of them died during that week. And it really, to me, marked the end of the kind of honorable combat that the Celts had among themselves. When one tribe would go attack another tribe, they might just steal some cattle, or if they did actually go to war, it would often be settled just by a couple champions would go up and fight, and whoever won, okay, we abide by that. They really didn't do this wholesale slaughter kind of stuff that they fought against when they fought against the Saxons. And so I wrote these two songs, but I didn't write them. I should say, Tiernach Bard did not write these songs. They were inspired to me very, very strongly from someone who went through these experiences, went through these battles. And the first one, I literally wrote while I was driving down the road late at night with my family, trying to get someplace, like 2 o'clock in the morning. And what I was doing is every time I would come to a stoplight, I try and write down a couple of lines and get there. And when I finally got to find a place, it's too quick, pen and paper, I had to write the whole thing down. I thought that was great. I never wanted to write, never tried to write a sequel, but a couple of years later, this song came into my head and it haunted me. It haunted me so horribly that I had to write it down because I was waking up in cold sweats. And so I wrote down the second song and I've written it. The funny thing is that second song is outside of my vocal range. I can't sing my own song the way I hear it in my head. But I've written it. I occasionally play it on an instrument, but I can't actually sing it.
What's it called?
The first one was called Honor's Lament, because I'm lamenting about the death of honor, the death of honorable combat among the Celts. The second one is called The Warrior's Trade, because the byline of the thing is, and there is no chorus of that per se. There's just this throughout. There's kind of a chorus, but it's just I used to have guys in the background going, "The warrior's trade, warrior's trade." You can do that through the whole song. There's no real chorus. It's just a the warrior's trade, and it's you can tell. I didn't know originally, but it's the same person wrote the second song. There's enough ties in between the two to realize the second person wrote the same song, but they can't have been my persona because the person in here, the bard, mentions losing their wife and kids to the war. They talk about being raised by their father, taught how to fight, hearing these ancient stories, being inspired by them, becoming a bard, and well, they fought for a while against the Saxons, became a bard, lost their family to the Saxons, and have just lived out their lives singing and talking about the wars.
So can I hear those songs on YouTube somewhere, or?
I originally had Honors Lament somewhere on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there or not. I'm going to be putting it back up soon anyway, because it's what I'm going to be doing for the live song on Saturday. That's going to be one of the songs for our alliance for our live song. I'll be playing that on my lyre that I made.
You're in Antier?
No, I'm in Artemisia. So I'm in the Western Alliance.
What time? What time?
I'm trying to remember.
Oh,
Get over. Come on. It's Saturday morning. What time zone are you in?
CST.
Oh, Central. Well, Central Daylight Time right now, right? Yeah. Okay. So, so you'll be 1 hour after me. It is. Oh no, it's at night. It would be 6 p.m. your time. It's
Okay.
7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time is the original song performance for the Bardic War. And all the live songs are going to be done then. And I'll be performing that live on my lyre.
Cool. All right. Do you have a link already that you can post here?
No, that one's going to be live. When you're doing it on Zoom, it's not going to be a pre-recorded video. I have had videos of that song in the past on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there or not. I have some other things on my YouTube site. I know I play it on a lyre. I don't know if I sing it on the YouTube site. But if you go to Star and Cross Reardon on YouTube, you'll find us. And I've got several videos there.
Okay. And so the link, can you say again where the link will be for the performance? Because you cut
Yeah, I'm
out when it was said.
probably contact me and I'll send it to you. I don't know where I can post the links. I think they have a place on the Bardic War site to put links to stuff, and so I'll try and put it there.
They're sharing the links daily, so as they show up, like every single day, they're sharing the links for that day.
No, I don't mean the Zoom links. I mean a link to the recorded class and to all of the documents.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, okay. I get both of those is good. Thank you.
Yeah, the link to the competition on Saturday is going to be on the Bardic War.
Did you say
Go ahead. Yeah, the link to the actual competition is going to be on the bardicwar.org page. And it won't be listed until Friday night, I think.
Okay. What is your website address?
Mine? I don't have a website. I have a Facebook page, which is just Tiernak Bard or Tiern Bard. So if you put my name into Facebook, you can find me there. And there's some videos on there as well. I think it's just links to the ones I have on YouTube.
Okay. Do you use chat on there at all? So if we wanted to talk with you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. This has been an awesome. I have enjoyed this class. Thank you so very much.
Very welcome. Any other questions, anybody?
If it's not too much trouble, I would like to see if we could go shared the one from the paper where you're sharing the knot and how that was turned into music. Because
Yes.
I'd like to see you work through that again, because that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I still don't fully I still don't fully understand that. Like
Yeah,
I heard you explain it, and I've seen you explain it throughout the class, but I don't fully understand how you got that from the original knot, and I would totally love to
yeah.
get some
So
clarification.
I'll be pasting two things. One, the paper that I wrote, which is this one that talks about it, and the second one, which is the paper from, which actually has the paper from where James Cargill actually did his research and found the stuff from the Standing Stones. I'll have both of those pasted in there somewhere.
Cool.
My problem is my best source is in German and in Fraktur at that.
And in what?
Frak, you know, the fancy print. But I could read it because I started reading it when I first started learning German.
Mm.
I just switched languages.
I tried to learn Welsh.
But I
keep trying.
Tierna, did you ever try to go back and decipher or play the music on the posts that you said where you initially saw they were all diatonic scale?
Oh, the ones that it wasn't me, but James Cargill.
Yeah.
These. Oh. These are the ones that he saw. No, I never actually played that. It's a well-known Celtic melody for Easter. I never looked at exactly what it is, but you probably could find it.
Okay. Can you go through the knot again for Tenoch Gash Gadel
For what?
for Delmar?
She's trying to say my name, I think. Tenoch. You can just say Tenoch for short.
Tenoch.
Oh,
Thank you.
So let's see if I can get, well, trying to think of what picture to go with. Here. So here, this is a note. This is one step higher. This is one step higher. Now, assume diatonic scale, but which ones are a full step and which ones are a half step, you'll have to decide. So it's 1, 2, 3, 3. This goes back down to 1, 2, 2, 2. No, sorry, 1, 1. And it's back down to 2, 1. Now I'm back in the negatives because I should have started at a lower point. This is the negative like 3, -2, -1, 0, something like that. So it's, you follow it through. So bum, 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 bum. And they have a note here. Bum, 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 bum. I said bum, 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 bum.
So every time the lines cross, there's a bum.
Right.
And when you have a loop, it's bum bum because you enter the loop, they go in a circle and come and hit the same intersection again, go in the other direction. So that's where the 2 notes come from.
One of the things I'd hoped to have ready for this class and didn't have time to do is I plan on making an animated PowerPoint of this where it actually you follow the colors as it flows through it. Eventually I'll get there. It's just not ready yet. All right, well, we better get going. Looks like my time is up.
Thank you so very much.
You're very, very welcome.
Very nice.
And I was very happy to find somebody who plays guitar, sort of like I do. You just retune it if you want it in a different key.
That's right. That's right. That's the way I played it. Other people don't like it, but what do I care?
You can do that to a guitar. You can do it to a harp. There are a lot of instruments you can't do it to.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it to any instrument. You just have to redo the fingerings then. Because I've done
Well, you can't do it to, like, for instance,
that. I
or
play
a quarter
different,
after.
and I've seen how.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This was a very interesting class.
You're very, very welcome.
I'm really glad I managed to find it.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting class.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Thank you.
You're very welcome.